Hey guys, and welcome to my video. My name is Mark Parham. I'm an entrepreneur and property investor, and in this video we're going to be going through the 10 biggest mistakes that I see when it comes to property investing. And I'm going to tell you some of the ones I've made, how much they've cost me. I can tell you straight away that opportunity, probably millions it's cost me, but I'll go through my mistakes that I've made on all of these as well, so you get a really good feel. Now before I get into the video, if I could ask you to drop it a like, it really helps me out with the opportunity. With the algorithm, but I'm taking the opportunity to ask you for a like. And I also want to take this opportunity to tell you that if you want to have a one-to-one conversation with me, there'll be a link in the description. You can book a consultation call with me. It's completely free of charge until I get to 1,000 subscribers. So please do that if you want, and we can talk about whatever might be on your mind. And if you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing. We put content out every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, all property related and entrepreneur related. So let's get into the video and let's see if we can save you some money. Now, the first thing we're going to look at is opportunity. Now, I'm going to tell a quick story. Back in 2011, 2012, I was offered a 2-bedroom apartment in Canada Water, in the Water Gardens section, for £200,000. And it was a new build, and I was going to need to put down a deposit of $20,000 to buy the contract, which would complete in 2 years' time. Now, I knew the investor that was saying that I should do this, and he said it was a great deal. You know, do you want to do this? And I should have just said yes. Instead, I knew I only had £10,000 in my bank account that I could send him today, and I knew that I'd need to phone my brother and see if he wanted to joint venture with me to do the deal, and then transfer the $20,000. So instead of saying yes, the money will be in your account in an hour, like I knew it would be, I said, let me call my brother and then I'll get back to you. Guess what? An hour later, I phoned back and said I'm ready to do the deal, and he had sold it to someone else. That flat today, £200,000, would be worth £700,000. So just a change in vocabulary would have made me £500,000 on that deal. Now that's just one example of opportunity presenting itself to me and me not taking it. I've got countless examples of opportunity presenting it to me and me taking it. Straight away, I learnt that lesson. There and then, that day, I was disappointed. I now know a change in vocabulary is so important. And if I want to do a deal, I say yes. I don't say I'll think about it. I don't say I'll talk to somebody. I say yes, no problem. Let's work out the details later, but I'm in. And that way you secure the deal there and then. So taking opportunity is my number one thing that I think costs investors money, time, and return on their investment. The second thing I've put on my list is price. Retail versus investor. Now sometimes you have to pay retail. My last example, this flat over in Canada Water, was a retail price. It's just that the investor that was selling the deal knew it was a really good price. He was trusted to me, he was a friend. I knew that he knew what he was doing. He'd been investing in London a long, long time, and it was a retail price, but he knew the market. So this is not to say that you always can't buy at retail price. You can, but you have to understand as an investor, a lot of the time you've got the ability to be able to bargain a little bit harder. You're end of chain. So when you're looking at deals, you've got to stack them up really well and make sure you've got a margin when you buy. Now that doesn't always mean negotiating on the sale price. Some properties are advertised really keenly and will go for significantly over the asking price. Some properties are advertised with pie in the sky expectations, and you're going to have to negotiate really hard down on them. But it all comes from doing your due diligence and making sure you understand what something's worth, how much you're going to spend, what you're going to buy it for, and how much spread there is there for you. The next thing leads on nicely from that, and that is refurbs and overspending. Now, you need to understand that if you're purchasing a property, we call them terrible condition, okay condition, or good condition. Now these are the 3 types of property that we kind of identify. Now we love them in terrible condition or good condition. Okay condition is awful. And the reason being, you can't negotiate a good price so that you can make room for a refurb, and you're going to need to do a bit of a refurb anyway, in either now or in 2 or 3 years, to make it good. So the discount you get on an okay property generally isn't good enough for it to work out as an investor. So that would be a big tip for me, is to look for properties that are either in great condition, that you can make a negotiation and maybe bring that price back down. You can quite often buy a great condition property for an okay condition price. The okay condition properties, you very rarely are able to get them cheap enough to make it worth doing a full refurb. And then the terrible wrecks, the awful properties, the ones where the windows are smashed, the one that I'm doing a video on at the moment, the Corby house. Done up, that's gonna be worth 190,000 and I bought it for 116. That is the sort of discount you need. So there's a huge spread when I'm doing this BRRR project, and I can take into consideration all those things that are going to crop up which we didn't expect. I very much doubt, for example, the central heating system's going to work. So there's going to be lots of stuff that's going to come up that we didn't originally budget for, but we created a massive spread so we had this contingency so we could always slot those in if we needed to. Now we lead on to a project plan including figures, and all of these kind of fit together, do you know what I mean? So what we're trying to do is really make sure for every single deal that you commit to, you have a plan. And that means knowing what your exit is, whether you're doing a purchase to HMO, purchase to serviced accommodation, purchase to buy to let, a BRRR, you know, what is your exit? And you need to have a really good plan, including the figures, and a really realistic idea of what the end valuation is going to be. Now you can create a plan for pretty much any property in the UK. There is no property that at the right price doesn't work. So it's just about creating a plan that's going to work for the deal that's in front of you. And I always suggest making sure that you've got a really good plan, including your figures, and you know exactly what return on investment you're going to be getting. So let's look at number 5. Number 5 is choosing a bad area. And what I mean by that is the very, very worst part of a city. Now I grew up in a small town and no area was that bad. Now when I first went to London, I found areas that were really bad. Somebody got shot outside my door in Penge. That's how bad it was. So I would say that you don't want to be buying in the worst part of a city. Now, I don't know where those are for your city or your town, but we're talking about areas where people are getting shot, stabbed, gang violence, all those sort of things. We also, conversely, don't buy in the best part of town. We won't create the ROI. So we try and just make sure that we're in an okay area, but we're going to definitely avoid these really, really bad areas. The areas where you phone up an agent and say, would you be able to rent this out afterwards? And they say, oh no, not in this area. We wouldn't do rentals in this area. So yeah, bad area, make sure you stay out of those. Now hopefully, so far we've saved you hundreds of thousands of pounds, but it gets better because we've got tax and some good stuff coming up. So stick with me, we will get even more savings in there for you and you will get even more tips. The next one I've got on here is decorating in a personal style. Now, people quite often go out and decorate properties in a personal style, which then they put on the rental market and it just doesn't fly out the door so quickly. I would say that that's actually completely unnecessary. Whitewash the walls, put a little bit of injection in colour with accessories, and that's all you need to do. You don't need to be doing all these bold colours everywhere. It's just not necessary. You're going to rent them out or sell them with nice neutral decors. Greys are about as far as we go. And I would certainly suggest, speaking to most agents, that that's as far as you go. The next thing is tax efficiency. Now, when I started my property journey, Section 24 didn't exist. Now, I'm not a qualified accountant and I cannot give you tax advice. But what I can say are there are strategies such as using limited companies, limited liability partnerships that you can bring in that will reduce your tax burden. That's not to say they're the right thing to do. And the reason being, if you're only going to do one buy to let, you might pay 3% on a company mortgage, 2% on a personal buy to let mortgage, meaning the bank is taking the 1%, and you're going to have to pay the cost of opening, running, and managing that company. It's quite often not as cost effective to run it through a company as it would be tax efficient. So you've got to make sure that you just bear that in mind, but not always is it going to be cheapest to put them in a limited company. For me, as a professional investor with many investments, it's definitely worth me having my things in a limited company wrapper. So we're grabbing opportunity, we're buying correctly, we're not overspending on our refurbs, we've got good plans in place, we're avoiding the bad areas, we're decorating in a nice neutral way, we've got great tax efficiency, But then we have a badly planned JV and too many joint ventures go south. And this is normally because the partners don't have the same objective. And I think that it's really important when you join together in a joint venture that you understand what you're in it for what period of time, and there is a clear defined exit. If there isn't, and it's just we're going to stick together forever, then that's unlikely to ever work. Two people's lives are going to go in different directions at some point in the future. And somebody may want to liquidate for whatever reason. Maybe it's divorce, maybe it's death, maybe it's debt, the 3Ds coming in there again, but it could be any of those sort of reasons, and the JV fails. So I would always say badly planned JVs are a terrible idea. You need to have very clear rules, very clear expectations, and a very clear exit strategy. And if you don't have those three things, you shouldn't be JVing, in my opinion. The last two things are really straightforward, and thank you so much for watching so far. I hope this has been useful. But look, you've got to have patience and you've got to have a clear strategy. Don't dabble, understand what you're going to become an expert in and become an expert in it. And patience is key. Property is a long game. Sometimes deals take 9 months to even complete. Like I started buying my Corby house in April 2020 and completed in February 2021. That's almost a year. I can think of another property in Sheffield that took me 9 months to complete on. Patience is key. I could have got bored in either instance and missed out on a great deal. So have a lot of patience, have a clear strategy, find out what works for you in your area, double down on that. Don't get bored, don't start dabbling in all different things in all different areas. So for me, that means we run HMOs and BRRR projects. We specialise in doing the Northamptonshire and Midlands, and we do a bit up in Nottinghamshire and Sheffield, and that's about it. We're not interested in going up to Bradford, to going up to Middlesbrough, to doing all these different areas, because ultimately it's very difficult to get to know an area to the point where you have intimate knowledge and that you're going to be able to develop a clear strategy. So for us, we have a clear strategy of where we're buying, and we have patience that good deals come along. We buy the right deals at the right time. We buy them at the right price. I mean, we're going to go back through all of this list again. But, you know, ultimately, if you do that, you will be successful and you will avoid some of these big mistakes in property. So thank you so much for watching. As I said, if you've got any comments on any of these mistakes or any of the mistakes that you've made that you think I've missed out, please put them in the comments. I read every single comment, reply to every one I possibly can. I've been Mark Parham. As I said, I release a video every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Please consider subscribing, and I will see you next time on Monday. Thank you.